Hey everyone, I'm Keisha Charmaine and I'm back with a review for episode 2 of season 2 of HBO's Insecure. So let's get right back into it. If you didn't see my review for episode 1 and a recap of season 1, check out my previous video, I have it linked. So this episode starts off with Issa and Molly. Issa is telling Molly about the encounter she had with Lawrence at the end of episode 1. And she's confused as to what it means, even though to me there really shouldn't be that much confusion. But Issa is a confused individual all the time. She always has that confused face, like a lot. Like she had that face on like 50% of the time. Anyway, so she's telling Molly, and Molly is trying to reassure her that like, oh yeah, maybe but that's probably a good sign. It might be a good sign, but you can tell in her tone like she doesn't really mean it. Like that was not a good situation that happened. Issa an anxious wreck about it, but Molly, trying to reassure her. Issa has reached out to Lawrence and he hasn't gotten back to her. He's been like giving her one-word answers and she hasn't really gotten any kind of understanding as to what that means going forward. But we see Lawrence, he's trying to figure out the words to say to her. He's trying to text it, but then he like erases everything because he's not clear. He's confused as well. I feel like he is genuinely confused. Lawrence is a good guy. Like I said in the end of my review for episode 1, I don't think that he was malicious in his actions and giving that quickie. I just think that it was just like a sudden burst of emotion, and that's how he expressed it. And he wasn't trying to be an asshole about it. So the next scene, Molly is in her therapy session with her therapist, and last episode, she didn't have anything to say really. Oh yeah, my job is perfect. My personal life, I don't want to talk about that, but my job is perfect. Basically that's what she was saying, and now she's singing a different tune because she realized that she's not getting paid like her coworker is, and she works harder than him, works longer than him, and deserves more money. But I should be getting paid this, and I should be in this place in life, and I'm not there. And her therapist tells her that what was the term? Magical thinking. She said that it's a psych term. I should look it up actually. Maybe women in general have this issue more than men, but a lot of us have this idea that okay, we should be in a certain place by a certain time, a certain age. We should have our career, we should have our husband, we should have our kids, we should own our house, and we have like a timeline of when we should achieve all these things. I'm personally guilty of that myself, so I can relate as far as that. Molly didn't seem very receptive of the therapist telling her that. I know that's something about Molly's character. She's so sure of herself, or she thinks she's so sure of herself to the point where she doesn't really like people's input. I mean, but you're going to a therapist, like I don't know what she expects, but like she has a difficult time in taking in other people's suggestions and other people's opinions. So she's gonna have to warm up to the idea. When the therapist said, okay, so let's meet next time, the same time next week, Molly's like, okay, I'll call you, because I feel like she just was rejecting what the therapist had to tell her. So she's gonna have to learn on her own. In the next scene, the girls, Issa, Molly, Kelly, and Tiffany, they're at Tiffany's event. I believe is like a gallery, like an art show or something. And Issa tells the other two friends about her encounter with Lawrence. She's not very honest. She says, oh yeah, me and Lawrence talked. Molly's like trying to like throw shade, like, oh yeah, what y'all talk about? Because they really didn't talk about anything. They just had a quickie. But she gave them the idea that it might mean that they're gonna be working it out. So Tiffany and Kelly, they're like, oh great, that's awesome, because we thought that he was gonna be with his new girl. Like we thought that he had a new girlfriend. They're like, what? Who? What? And apparently Tiffany's husband, he must have told, I think his name is Derek. He must have told Derek, and Derek told Tiffany, and Tiffany told Kelly, and Kelly spilled the beans. But yeah, so they end up telling Issa about this girl named Tasha who Lawrence has been talking to, and Molly just found her on Instagram with no problem. And you know, they're like looking at her pictures, throwing shade, and Issa's trying to be above that, like, you know, I have no problems with this girl. My issues with Lawrence, like, I'm not worried about this girl Tasha, like, I'm just trying to get my man back. And they're like, oh, that's real mature of you. Kelly's like, yeah, that's growth, you know, you're a big girl. Come on, y'all, those are your friends. Your friends should know that you full of it, okay? So, and yeah, she is full of it, because she went into the bathroom and like started rapping to herself in the mirror, and she, you know, gassed herself up, and then tells Molly, you know what, let's look her up, let's see what's good with this woman, let's see what's up. So then she ends up becoming like kind of obsessed a little bit. Throughout the episode, you see her going back and forth through her Instagram and like studying her. So Issa, she goes by Chad, is that his name? Lawrence's friend's house, where Lawrence has been staying, and he's so, I don't want to call him weird. He's hilarious, first of all, let me just say that. And he's just being really awkward with her, but like comfortably awkward. Like, I think he's trying to make her feel awkward. I don't know. He's just giving her small talk. He's acting like he doesn't know why she's visiting him. She's just like, hey, Issa, oh, your hair's different. And he's just like, yeah. I think the expression that he had on his face, he's just looking at her like, oh yeah, you cheated on my boy and now you're coming to check on him, huh? Life must be really well for you right now. Sipping on his little soda or whatever. And she's just like, okay, so is Lawrence home? Can I speak with him? He's like, oh no, he's not here. He doesn't tell her where he is, because he knows he's at Tasha's house right now. So he's just like, yeah, good for your ass. You play my boy, and now he's with another girl. And then she leaves, and she's just like, okay, I'll tell him that I stopped by. And while Lawrence is at Tasha's house, they're watching that slave show that they like to watch. I think it's supposed to be like a parody of Underground or something like that, because, you know, last season they had a show that they were watching. It was like a reality show from inside of a women's prison. I forgot what that was parodying, but I think that was parodying another show as well. But yeah. So yeah, Tasha and Lawrence, you know, they're watching the stupid show, and Lawrence can't really get into it like Tasha is, because he's kind of guilt-ridden, and he just tells Tasha, you know what, like, I slept with my ex. Tasha's really hurt, and she's like, what, like, are y'all getting back together? Do you still love her or whatever? And he's like, I don't know, I'm really confused, but I just wanted to tell you, I want to be honest. And at that moment I was like, kudos to you, because, you know, most guys are not gonna be honest about that. And he didn't have to be honest, because, you know, they're not exclusive or whatever. So it was really just admirable that he was honest about it. Like I said, most people, men and women, are not going to be honest about that. So, but she's still upset and hurt, and she kicks him out, and he leaves. So then we see Molly. She's at work. She's talking to one of her higher ups, a black lady who they clearly have like a special bond over their blackness with each other, and she tries to get the scoop on like where her main boss is going, so she can go there too. Apparently he's going to a hockey game, so she wants to go to the hockey game to kind of bond with him, so she can, I don't know, so she can, I guess, play the game, so she can, I don't know what she really wants, if she just wants a raise or she just wants more respect in the workplace, maybe both. But yeah, so she tries to go to the hockey game for that purpose. Then we see Issa and her coworker Frida at the high school, and they're talking to the principal, and they're asking him for his assistance because they don't want to give up on the school. They really want to help the high school kids, but they're not getting any sort of turnout when they have their little events. So they asked the principal. The principal's like, oh, so which teacher are you working with? And they said, oh, Miss Alvarez. And he's kind of like, okay, so I'll work on that. I got you. He says like a racist comment. He says something like, oh, you know, the school used to be so different. The school used to be all black, but now all the Mexicans are coming in. You know, we might have to build a wall, ha ha ha, and have them pay for it, ha ha. a very tasteless joke. I think Issa's probably just like awkwardly laughing at it. Frida's kind of just like, did he just say that? And there's a moment where Frida is talking to Issa about it, like how inappropriate that comment was, and Issa just like, you know, let's just brush it off because we need his help, you know, so that we can stay in the school and help these kids. So, but Frida, she's really bothered about it. Yes, she has her privilege being a white woman, but she still very much so cares about disadvantaged people, and that's I guess that's kind of why she's in her job and it's nonprofit. But yeah, so she was very uncomfortable with him saying that, because yes, he's a black man, but just because he's an oppressed person, that doesn't mean that he can make those kind of comments about other oppressed people. She thought it was inappropriate, and she kind of felt inappropriate saying that, being a white person herself. But I understood her perspective. I also understood Issa's perspective at the moment, because she's just like, you know what, it's just a joke he made, like, don't make a big deal out of it because we need him to help us with the kids. So then we have a scene with Lawrence. He's telling Chad about how he told Tasha the truth, that he slept with Issa, and Chad is just like, you're so dumb, like, you're an idiot. Of course, that's how Chad would feel. Like, a lot of people would feel the same way, and he's just like, no, like, you're an idiot, why would you do that? Do you want to be back with Issa? Lawrence is like, I don't know, I still gotta figure things out. At this point, they're looking at an apartment because Lawrence can't sleep on that blow-up bed in Chad's living room forever. So he's like helping him find an apartment, and I think it was in the same area. It seemed like a similar setup. Yeah, so Lawrence, he likes apartment, but he's just not sure, because it's him getting this apartment would kind of like solidify the fact that him and Issa are not together anymore, because, you know, they live together. He and Issa live together, so he's a little reluctant at getting an apartment, even though the lady showing the apartment says, you know, this apartment is gonna go fast because this neighborhood is like in high demand. So he's kind of just like torn, like So then we see Molly. She's at the hockey game with her boss, and, you know, she's trying to, you know, warm up to him, I should say, you know, talking about hockey and talking about the hors d'oeuvres and just small talk, you know, nothing significant at all, but she got a couple laughs out of him, a couple giggles. She laughed at his jokes a little bit, so like she felt like, yeah, he's warming up to me, you know, we have a little bond going on, so she's happy about that. Although she goes back to work and she tries to be chummy with him again, and he's not very receptive to it, and she's disappointed, like, oh, he's not really feeling me. So Issa and Frida, they go to the school again the next day, or maybe a couple days later, I don't know, but they go and they have an awesome turnout. I think they have their events in the library and it's packed, so they're like excited, yes. And they're no longer collaborating with Miss Alvarez anymore. I forgot the new teacher's name, but it's an older black lady. So I get the feeling that what the principal did was he collaborated, or he asked, you know, another black employee for a favor. He seemed like the type to like have that kind of camaraderie with the black employees. Actually, I think he said that to Issa, you know, he's like, oh, you know, we gotta stick together. The Jews do it. He even referred to the Mexicans at his school as taco meat. I'm like, okay, that wasn't even funny. The first joke he made with the even though it was tone deaf, about the building a wall, it was almost funny. But calling them taco meat, that was not funny at all. And he thought it was hilarious because he laughed. Issa, I think she felt awkward. I don't think she laughed, but she had her awkward. Now she's kind of listening to, or considering what Frida said a little more, like, yeah, that he was like really inappropriate. But at the same time, I'm not sure if she feels the need to tell her higher ups at We Got Y'all, her job. I don't know if she wants to tell them, because at the end of the day, she's benefiting off of this guy helping her out with the kids, so she's a little torn about that. Yeah, there was a moment in the hallway where the principal, he's walking down the hallway and he sees a group of, I guess, Mexican boys. I mean, I'm only saying Mexican because they say Mexican. I mean, it's California, so they're most likely Mexican. I'm from New York. Most of the Latinos here are Puerto Rican. Don't speak Spanish here. Say that for the bus. Like, how are you telling them they can't speak their language? They're not even in the classroom. They were in the hallway amongst themselves. They can't speak Spanish. That was ridiculous to me. But yeah, we'll see where that goes. I wonder, Frida doesn't seem like the type to just let that rock for too long. She mentioned that she was guilt watching 13, the Netflix documentary by Ava DuVernay. Like, I saw that. I think I saw it twice. I really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it to you guys. If you guys have Netflix, watch it. Or if you don't have Netflix, find somebody who has a login and watch it. So, you know, Issa's doing her little stalking, Instagram stalking, Facebook stalking. She realizes that Tasha works at the bank that Lawrence goes to. So she pulls up to the parking lot, to the bank, and we see Issa go into the bank, and she goes up to Tasha. She goes in Tasha's line, goes up to Tasha and punches her in the face, knocks her out, and she's all hype. And of course, that was just a daydream. Issa stayed in her car and was just contemplating. We see Molly like in like a park kind of scenario, like by like a food truck, getting herself a hot dog or something, and she happens to stumble into Lawrence, and she's like, "Oh, Lawrence, like, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "I work right here." And she's like, "Oh, okay." So what's up? How are you? And they're very awkward. They're standing like, they give each other like a, you know, those one arm church hugs, but they, as they're speaking, they're a good 2 yards apart. So it's really awkward, their exchange. But they're, you know, giving small talk, and then he tries to leave, and then she's like, "No, wait, yeah, Issa really misses you. She's having a hard time." He's like, really, you know, kind of feeling like, oh, she's having a hard time. She's not the one who got cheated on. She's the one who has to leave her apartment. Like, that's how, he didn't say that, but that's what he's thinking. Like, you can tell. She's like, "Yeah, you know, Issa, she cheated on you, but she's not a cheater. Like, you gotta please give her another chance. Like, where are you at? Like, how do you feel? Like, do you think you're gonna give her another chance?" And then Lawrence is just like, then it cut off. We don't hear his response. You know, Molly calls Issa while Issa's still in the parking lot. And she tells him, "Oh yeah, so the plan worked. I was, you know, hanging out outside his job, and he finally accidentally bumped into me." So she intended for him to see her. I didn't think that at all at first. I thought they genuinely randomly bumped into each other, but no. That was a setup. And Molly tells Issa, "You know what? Yeah, it's over. He doesn't want you back," basically. And Issa's just like, "All right," like, she accepts it. She's sad about it. She's very sad about it, but she accepts it. And later on, we see Issa at home. She's like on her dating apps or dating sites or whatever, and she's going through her messages, and she just responds to one of them, and she says, "You trying to hook up?" But she says that in more vulgar terms, and that's kind of how the episode ends. So we see she's trying to have her whole phase now that she's single, and she hasn't been single. It doesn't seem like she's been single since college, maybe early college, because she had a relationship with Daniel in college, and then I think she went straight into her relationship with Lawrence after that, and pretty much throughout her whole 20s she was with the two of them. So I think she feels deprived of her whole phase. I don't know, and I think she wants to have it now, I guess. Maybe in part to try to get over Lawrence. I think mostly just to get over Lawrence. Again, I ended up leaving the show feeling disappointed in Issa. I didn't like how she felt in the end of episode 1, and I did not like how she was trying to hook up in the end of episode 2. Like, that's not how you get over someone. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is kind of important. I remember in my review for episode 1, when I was recapping the first season, I mentioned that we didn't really get too much into Tiffany's character. You know, she's the one who she portrays herself as, like, you know, she got it all together, somewhat like Molly. You know, actually they're AKA sisters. You know, she has her husband, and, you know, they come off like the perfect couple. But she revealed once Issa mentioned that oh yeah, me and Lawrence, we're gonna work it out, we're getting back together, I feel it. Tiffany was like, oh yes, that's great, that's how relationships are, you know, you have your ups and downs, you know, just like with my husband, you know, he was living in a hotel for 6 months last year. Everyone was like, what? That was a secret. And they were like, what happened? She was like, it doesn't matter because it's over. She seemed like the type to be really private about her issues, which is good, you know, and bad, but it's pretty good though, because you really don't want, you know, other people's opinions to influence your decisions as far as what you do in a relationship. I mean, unless you're like in a situation where, you know, you're in an abusive situation and you don't know how to get out, then obviously like you should talk to someone. But if you're having, you know, regular disagreements and just relationship issues, you might not want to tell your whole clique what you're going through exactly, because oftentimes the advice isn't that great. So I don't know, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about getting your friends' opinions? I definitely talk to some of my friends about, you know, that kind of stuff, but I pick and choose what I tell, because you know, you don't want your friends judging your lover or your significant other, I should say. You don't want them judging them, especially if you're not breaking up. You don't want them to have like a negative perspective on them because they're gonna be around, and you don't want them to be like, every time he comes around, you know what I mean? So yeah, leave me a comment below. Thanks for watching. I'm Keisha Charmaine, love, light, and locks.